Welcome to the Sisterhood of Limitless Living podcast. I'm your host, Dr. April Moreno. My background is in public health informatics, and I'm here along this journey of living with autoimmune, just like other women, and we are known as the autoimmune community of multicultural women thriving. I hope you enjoy our episode with you today. Let's get started. Hello, Sisterhood. Happy winter. Hope your 2021 is working out pretty good. Already so far so good, I think, in terms of outlook and perspective on life and the direction of the way things are going collectively around the country. I'm just really grateful that we're able to have a new culture, organizational culture, national culture of valuing public health and valuing diversity. And that's all I need to say, to be honest. And today it's winter still over here and it's really stormy and it's kind of nice. It's pretty for San Diego. We don't usually get a lot of stormy weather. We've got some wind and some rain. It was really nice to sleep and wake up every so often and hear lots of rain, heavy rain storms coming through, which was really nice while you're sleeping, at least, right? And this morning I had the chance to go out to the ocean, which is actually probably not the. It was kind of stressful, to be honest, because it's Monday morning and I wanted to do something relaxing, but then realizing that we had a ton of different conversations and interactions on email to do this week or today, that it became a little stressful after all, and felt like that it was hard to really focus on being out there with the ocean. But there's some good things that turned out from that. I have this podcast discussion that emerged from this experience this morning. And also, it was kind of stormy out there. It was really pretty. I imagined someone, in the middle of the ocean on the ship. And it was just really lots of waves with white caps, I guess they are, on the waves. And lots of heavy wind and occasional sprinkles. It was just really different. It was a different mood out there in the ocean today, watching that from the shore. It was really pretty still, and the birds were having a good time looking for food, fish and things. And yeah, it wasn't busy at all. Usually that side of the ocean, that side of the beach is really crowded, and so I was able to roll down my window every so often and not worry about the non-mask wearers walking by. But this led me to today's conversation about making decisions that work for you. Actually, with the nonprofit organization, the Autoimmune Community Institute, just a couple days ago on Saturday, we hosted the 2021 Autoimmune Quality of Life Workshop, and that turned out really good. We had just about 5, 6 people in there, a small group. We had a wonderful conversation just in community, just sharing our own experiences in an enclosed place, enclosed space, talking about our health needs in terms of physical, mental, environmental, social, and other health dimensions, and how we can plan out our 2021 accordingly to meet these different goals and needs for the year. So that was really wonderful. I had a great time meeting other ladies in the autoimmune community. And today I'm going to be talking about something that's somewhat similar to that conversation that I had with the Autoimmune Community Institute last weekend. But this one is on decisions that work for you and how to make those decisions. It's kind of an ongoing process. These are things that I learn almost on a daily basis. I think a lot of it does have to do with experiences of manipulation, bullying in the past, that sometimes I catch myself responding to things in a certain way that are counterproductive. I will notice certain cramps or pains and aches in my body as I make the decision that I feel that I know is not good for me, but feeling that some kind of pull about what other people are thinking, what my obligations are, what I think my obligations are to them. And today we're going to be talking about how to stop all of that and really begin to prioritize our health and our decisions. Because after all, we are living with chronic illness, and we do have to make decisions that will benefit us as well, because this is This is important. Last year it seemed like really good news. We were invited to join a podcast network. And I don't talk about this very much because we didn't know how or when we were going to actually be able to share that we were part of a podcast network. I don't even know when we were able to publicly announce that. So I never did announce it. So it was sometime in the fall or maybe late summer of last year. I had submitted the Sisterhood of Limitless Living to a podcast network. I shared our story. I did our video kind of interview. I presented who we were. They looked at all the different episodes. I met some other people who had podcasts. And then thankfully we were selected to be part of this podcast network, which seems so great. But I didn't feel comfortable or ready. I didn't know if we were able to announce it yet, that we were selected. So I didn't celebrate publicly or anything. And then several months later, we don't hear back from them. And then just recently, they had some requirements of things that they wanted on a very short timeline. And I accommodated that for the most part. But, it caused me to think about how productive this is in terms of physical health. There's another example this past week about how I signed up for something. And it's hard sometimes because I do want to support communities. I support women. I support diverse communities. But sometimes I want to meet their expectations. It's hurtful sometimes for myself because I find myself pulled to do things that may or may not be beneficial for my own health and well-being. But it's just a personal journey to get through. So if you're like me and you've gone through a childhood of manipulation and bullying, and I'm really not a fan of the word bossy. There's this conversation that's out there about women that should be able to be called bossy because it makes them leaders. When you look at the leadership literature, that's quite the opposite. So being bossy and trying to dictate to other people what they need to be doing only benefits the benefit of that person who's dictating it versus to help other people around them is not a good trait. It's just not beneficial. And that kind of leads to this conversation today as well. I just recently left that podcast network. I had to make the decision to leave them because of the fact that I didn't know what was going on. I didn't know, for months and months had not heard anything. And then when I do hear from them, there's like this, you must attend this on this particular day and, have all these expectations. But the thing is, that day, I have a conflict already. I have things that I've already decided I needed to do. And the response was quite unkind. They were just like, we're not going to accommodate that. And so I just made the decision to leave that podcast network. Sometimes when I go through these experiences, it empowers me to do my own thing even more strongly. So I'm even more dedicated now to having these conversations and working on my podcast in my own way, on my own time, in a way that benefits myself, in a way that still benefits our listeners, in a way that still provides information and support to the sisterhood. Sometimes we need to think about this. It's great to help other people. It's great to want to support them. Being part of a nonprofit organization or being part of a podcast, sometimes you just want to do things that partner with other people. It's a good thing. You want to grow. You want to reach out and build your network, right? You want to continue to make friends and you want to share in these experiences, especially with the pandemic. Being able to work remotely and partner with people is a gift. It's a wonderful way to interact with people. But the thing is, we have to continuously and on a daily basis be very vigilant as women and individuals with chronic illness. We need to continue to listen to ourselves from within to see if it is still beneficial in terms of our physical well-being. Because without our health, without our wellness and well-being, it's just not worth it. No matter what your intention is, no matter what my intention was this past couple of weeks, to want to support these communities, to want to support their entrepreneurial developments, to want to be there for them, but knowing that I was hurting myself, knowing that the conflicts of my calendar and the different obligations on my calendar were piling up, knowing that my stomach began to feel cramped. I was starting to feel tension in my belly. I was starting to feel like acid in my stomach, and I was just starting to not feel that this was good for my health. And we know what that feels like, right? When you have that stress in your belly, you feel the overwhelm, that kind of acidic feeling in the stomach, and that tension, the cramps and stress that can happen. So just listening in on a daily basis as you think about the different things on your calendar. Marie Kondo, she has that great book about tidying up. And I like to reference it every so often because there's a few amazing themes that she brings up in her book. But the one that I wanted to talk about today is that feeling of whether something gives you joy. And it doesn't have to be physical objects, right? It can be the things on your calendar as well. And so kind of clearing space on your calendar for things that give you joy. Otherwise, you're at risk of stress, at risk of not being a friend to your body and accommodating the chronic illness that is kind of on our backs if we don't live accordingly to protect ourselves and nurture our health and well-being. So kind of going through, I have a passion planner here. I love the passion planner. They were very kind to actually donate to the Autoimmune Community Institute, the nonprofit I work with. So we gave these away last weekend as part of the Autoimmune Quality of Life workshop that we did. And so anyways, looking through the passion planner and looking at all the different things I have listed in here and kind of like assessing for myself whether when I look at this activity, if it gives me joy, motivation, if it's something I'm excited about versus something that's giving me a feeling of dread, that's causing a tension in my stomach. I need to be aware of that and make decisions accordingly. There's certain things like going and getting an MRI or something or a blood test that kind of evoke the same kind of stress feeling. But unfortunately, there's certain things that we don't get to decide what to do. And, with the bigger picture perspective, these are things that are helpful for our overall health and well-being physically. So taking care of ourselves in that way is important. But in terms of the decisions that we have the power to make, things that we sometimes even think were a great idea, right? So when I wanted to join this podcast network, of course, without a doubt, it sounds wonderful to be part of a podcast network. To be able to put that on my podcast would be amazing. To be able to potentially grow my podcast with this great network of people. In theory, it's a great idea. It's a great concept. And I wish them the best. And I know that they're going to grow and develop some wonderful podcasts out there. But personally, I know that I have to think about the fact that that stress level is what I need to consider first, right? If it doesn't feel like a good combination, it doesn't feel like a good match, if it doesn't feel like a good decision, and it changes, right? Sometimes you think in the very beginning it seemed wonderful. But over time, if you're starting to sense that maybe this isn't quite what I envisioned it to be, and to be fair, maybe it wasn't even what they envisioned it to be. I support startups. I'm all startup right now. I'm in complete startup phase with my podcast and with my consulting work and with my podcast and my nonprofit. Everything's kind of been in startup because it's less than 5 years old. Sticking to it and being dedicated to it is a great thing. But making those decisions, are there certain things that are causing me tension? Are there certain things that I have the power to make decisions about? Is something that we need to consider. Is it hurting you? And going back to that beginning of why, every entrepreneur knows this question of always remember your why. And it does, it keeps you through. It gives you that momentum, the sustainability, the stamina to get through that 4 or 5 years of starting up your idea and sticking with it. So always knowing why you're doing something, right? I love the Sisterhood of Limitless Living. Realizing that we're at over 84 episodes now gives me so much joy, but also knowing that I remember my why. And, that makes those 84 episodes like just a few in my mind. It's like nothing because I have to keep going and I want to keep going to support this culture, support the sisterhood of multicultural autoimmune women thriving. It's important to me. It's lifelong. So just remembering the why we're doing something, looking through your calendar, looking through your schedule, looking on your phone and what you have scheduled for the week and seeing, is this something that I'm enjoying or do I enjoy seeing this here? I remember that this was a good idea at the time, but am I enjoying the fact that it's on this calendar now? Is it causing me stress? Is it something that I have the power to change? Is it something that can I remove this from my calendar? Can I get this activity done in a different way, in a shorter period of time? Right? So why am I doing this? Right? So this morning I was at the ocean with my husband. I was telling him about the podcast network. I was telling him about a couple of other obligations I had placed upon myself this week. And he said, "Are those required?" And I said, "No. Why are you doing them?" I said, "Well, I thought it would be a good idea. It seemed like a good idea at the time. I wanted to help them," were my answers. "But how is it affecting you?" That's the question he asked me in so many words. And I realized it's causing me a lot of stress. And as my husband, he's like, "Well, you're stressing me out. You're stressed out. You're causing stress upon not just yourself. You cause stress upon the family as well when you make these decisions." So thinking about how it has that effect, that community effect even, that social effect. The decisions we make are not our decisions alone. And then I realized I don't have to do this. I can make the decision to change my mind and be unapologetic about it. There's no need to feel that you are somehow in the wrong, right? This is powerful, right? This is the heart. This is the guts of this. Feeling that you are somehow in the wrong for making a decision that will no longer hurt you. That's really what this is about. So when we're looking at our calendar and these events, making that decision unapologetically to yourself. You can apologize, sure, but to yourself, you're like, I do not regret the decision I have just made because I know this is the right thing for me. I'm not going to feel bad about what other people are going to think about that. When we think about being unapologetic, that's the definition. That's what I'm referring to here. Not feeling bad for someone. Your perception of how other people are going to take it is really none of your business. And I mean that in the best possible way. The decision you make, you have the power to change if possible, right? Whenever you can change it, if it is hurting you, go for it. Just change it. Make that decision and don't feel bad about it. Don't feel that you've done something wrong for doing something that's right for yourself. So that is what I wanted to say today. Making the decision to look at your calendar this week, making decisions that work for you, not against you, because there's a ripple effect. When it's causing you stress, it's going to cause other people stress around you, your family, your loved ones, people that count on you, that spend a lot of time with you. So making that decision, and I know at first it seems like, well, it was such a good idea at first. I'm supposed to commit to this, right? And that can be a cultural thing as well. Some people believe that all they have is their word. And that's a tough one. But making a decision at some point that, sure, I can sit here with my word, but if I'm a skeleton, what's the point? I can sit here with my word, but if I have a flare up and I can't do it anyway, what's the point? So making the decision that works for you, remembering again, helping others, but knowing when to stop. Thinking about why you're doing something. Get to the heart of it. Why am I doing this? Deciding if it's still helpful for you or is it hurting you? And then being unapologetic to yourself, not feeling bad for saying no and changing your mind when you need to. That is my topic for today. And I hope you have a wonderful and healthy week. Thank you for joining us today for this episode of the Sisterhood of Limitless Living. I hope you found this episode helpful and beneficial along your autoimmune journey. Feel free to reach us at sisterhoodoflimitlessliving.com for more information about our podcast, other episodes. And if you click on the resource tab, there's more information about resources that can be helpful for you along the journey, information, tips, and even worksheets related to our topics on the podcast episodes. sisterhoodoflimitlessliving.com. Visit us on Twitter at SL3Limitless or on Instagram at Dr. April Wellness, all spelled out. Take care and have a good day.